just the sound of paper.
Okay. Okay, we're really, really pleased to have Bob Mione today. He is one of the managers of the Connemara Meadow, and he is integral in their attempts to renovate the prairie there, the meadow there. He's been an active volunteer at the meadows since 2008, and he's held the position of manager since 2011. He's a current member of the Blackland Prairie Master Naturalist chapter. He spent a great deal of time in the field in Texas, Virginia, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, and Kansas, so he knows his prairies. He worked for the Department of Defense, ran his own software company for 15 years, and currently works part-time as a management consultant. He has a bachelor's from the University of North Texas, a master's from Golden Gate University, and his goal is the restoration of bobwhite quail on the Connemara Meadow. So please welcome Bob Mione.
All right. Thank you. I just want to say it's good to be back in Denton. When I was here, there was a theater downtown, and I had an elephant on the wall. Is that theater still there? You don't know? Anyway, it is? Yeah, okay. So, anyway, I was thinking about driving over here, and when I was here, when you left Denton, you drove to McKinney. Now you drive. Anyway, I knew a guy that was a college professor. He was going to go on a national tour, speaking about some really scientific, sometimes controversial type stuff. A tour went all around the country, and he didn't like to drive, so he hired a chauffeur to drive him from place to place. Have you heard about this professor? So he's driving, and then the chauffeur goes to the presentation every evening, and they do this. It's about a 20-city tour, and they get right to the end, and the professor says to the chauffeur, "You know what? I'm whipped. I've been doing this. I've been talking. I've been showing these people PowerPoint slides. I've been going to sleep. You know it. And so what I want to do tonight is I want to take a break." And the chauffeur says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, you know it. So just get up there and just run through the slides. No big deal. You know, all the questions are all the same. All these people think they're so smart. The same questions, you know. So just, we've heard it 19 times. So just do this." And the chauffeur says, "Okay." So they do the change uniforms, if you will. The professor changed into street clothes, and the chauffeur, or the professor changed into chauffeur clothes, and the chauffeur puts on a suit, and he does a presentation, and he's about halfway through, and somebody in the back room, and there's always somebody like this in every presentation, and stands up and says, "You know what? I don't believe what you're saying. The data doesn't support it. We've done similar research here, and all that you're saying is poppycock." And so the chauffeur says, "Wow, that's very interesting, but obviously you have not been listening to what I've been saying. You haven't read anything that we've published, and your question is so idiotic, I'm going to have my chauffeur in the back of the room answer it." So what I want to do, I'm setting you up here, as I go on and you have questions, I want you to ask them as I go. And there are going to be 3 kinds. There are going to be ones I'll answer right away. 2, there'll be ones I'll bookmark, and we'll get to them later in the presentation. Or 3rd, we'll refer them to the chauffeur. So, and just a little bit about me. I have a severe hearing loss, too much M16, too much motorcycles, too much everything. And so I wear hearing aids to help with my hearing loss. And I'm not like these people that are developing hearing aids. Most people that have hearing loss, a lot of people have hearing loss, they're vain about it. So they have hidden hearing aids, and so mine are very small. If it's up to me, I would have a big microphone right here with a sign that said, "I'm deaf, speak up." So I'm not going to say speak up, but what I'll do is I'll point to my head if I need you to speak up if you ask a question. And what happens a lot of times is the microphones are on top, and so for me to hear, I have to bend my head like this. So that looks like I'm praying, and sometimes if an attractive woman asks me a question, the prayer goes, Lord, please let me understand what she's saying so I don't appear so stupid. So you understand. So if I'm bobbing my head, that's what that's all about. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to talk about the restoration efforts that we made over at the Meadow. And I want to give you some background. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the actual restoration, but it has to do with operating as a volunteer in an organization. And so a lot of you maybe have to do that. And so it's just my take on operating as a volunteer. So let's see if we can get this thing to work. Oh, not working. Here? Here? Maybe it's not on. When Van and I were getting ready for this, we were concerned about getting the presentation ready, and I said, Van, don't worry about it. I've had a lot of things done happen to me when I've done presentations. We were promoting some software one day, and we had a bunch of people in the room, about half of this many. Had the laptop all set up. President, everybody's in there around the table, and the laptop caught on fire. So, two things about that. Number one, they smell terrible. And number two, we didn't sell any software that day. So, and this was working just a minute ago. But let me talk to you about there's an education. There's a test that comes with this presentation, and so we'll just do that while they're trying to get the technical stuff working. The organization I volunteer for is the Connemara Conservancy Foundation. And where did that come from? It came from a lady that donated 72 acres of her estate, and she put it in a conservation trust, and that became the Connemara Meadow. As a matter of fact, when she first established that, the lady's name was Frances Williams. When she set that up, she's kind of like Ben Cartwright. He named his ranch Ponderosa. And the people that used to be on TV, they had a farm out in the country, they called it Green Acres. Well, she called it Connemara. So people are always asking me, what does that mean? I don't have the slightest idea what it means. It's Connemara. And people, they began to refer to it rather than Connemara Meadow, just as Connemara. And so that's the way the organization went forward for a lot of years. They had used to have outdoor sculpture. They had symphony performances, things like that. And so it just became known as Connemara. And so people would say, I'm going to Connemara, when they really were going to the Meadow. And so as the organization evolved, the Connemara Conservancy Foundation is really a land trust organization. Are we good? We're good. So it's a land trust, and so very interested in having other land set aside in conservation easements. That's what they do. And so there's a big branding effort right now to move people away from referring to Connemara as just the Meadow to the organization. So, and what they do, again, they try to get people to set land aside. So if you're rich, you have a bunch of property, your uncle has a bunch of property, you know somebody has a bunch of property, and you want to set it aside in some sort of a nature conservancy type thing, you need to get a hold of Connemara Conservancy Foundation, and they'll come over and get you squared away. So this is the test, the two-question test. The answer to the first question is no. And the answer to the first question is yes. Okay, so are you ready for your test? Okay. Is Connemara a place or an organization? Oh, wait a minute, I didn't ask that right. I should say, is Connemara a place? No, it's not. And if you happen to know somebody, or you come into a bunch of property, or you want to set it aside in a nature conservancy, then you will. Will you get in touch with, or at least think about, Connemara Conservancy? Yes. All right, now we're going. Okay, so where are we? Where are we located? We are today right up here somewhere, and where the meadow is right over here. So this is just the Google map view of where we are. Are you with me? This is the lake. Okay, so we're going to zoom in. And this is the view. This is 75. I don't know, anybody ever get over to Plano? Pretty busy place right here, Plano. I mean, this is 75. This is Bethany. This is Alma. Right here is the meadow. Okay, so I'm just doing this to zoom in to show you. And okay, so this is Rowlett Creek. It runs along here. And this is obviously a big subdivision. It's a big public golf course right here. So what I tell folks is it's an urban oasis. It's 72 acres of farm that was set aside in the 70s, late 70s, and it's just, that's where it is. And what we're going to talk about today is what we did right here in this area, about 10 acres in what we call the lower meadow. And this is a side view. We got the satellite to zoom in real close. I'm kidding you, we didn't get the satellite to zoom in real close. But this is the lower meadow, called the lower meadow because it's in the floodplain of Rowlett Creek. It's not worth very much money because it floods anytime the creek really floods. But this, the upper meadow, about 50 feet up from the lower meadow. I can't imagine what that point right there is worth. A ton of money. So we have hopes that it will stay as a nature preserve, if you will. So what was happening in the summer of 2012, all nonprofits are like profit organizations. They're always looking for money. Is that right? So had a conversation with the executive director, and we were just kicking around, we need some ways to raise some money. So I am at that point the, quote, meadow manager, and so I'm thinking, what can we do to have the meadow raise some money for the foundation? And one of the things that I have done in that position, I host the open houses on the fourth Sunday of every month. And so what I was concerned about was I'd like to have more people come to the open houses. I would like, no offense here, I would like more young people to come to the open houses, specifically children. And then the third thing, we'd like to raise some money. So, and the reason for the children is I have a very specific objective there. This guy's last name is Tyson. Is that it? Neil, something like that. And he's a really smart guy, and so that's what we want to bring a bunch of kids there, and eventually one of those kids is going to be a scientist or an engineer or something like that, from their exposure to the outdoors. So those are the three objectives. So the thought is, what can we do? How could we do that to hit those objectives? And one of the thoughts was, what we could do is have something that kids like to do. And what kids like to do is go through mazes. So, mazes, and so, well, how do you do a maze? Well, the people all over the country, farmers, now instead of raising corn for food, they raise corn and then they cut a maze in it. They did that a lot more before corn was $7 a bushel, but anyway, that happens. And so the thought was, and I'm a volunteer, so the probability of me suggesting that we raise a corn or something and have a maze to raise money is absolutely zero. That's the probability of that. So the thought was, well, how can that happen? So every September, the Connemara Conservancy Foundation has a big event. They call it Into the Meadow, and right in this area, they serve a gourmet meal. So I was at the gourmet meal, Into the Meadow, and it just so happens, purely circumstantially, I can't imagine that it would have happened any other way. I'm sitting across the table from the wife of the board member, one of the board members. So I began a conversation with this lady about how could we get children into the meadow. And lo and behold, she comes up with a great idea, a maze. So, wow, that is a really good idea. Do you mind if I move that forward within the organization? And she said, no, I think it's a great idea. I'll talk to my husband. Wow, okay, you'll talk to your husband, a board member. So, okay, so I had done some research on mazes, corn mazes, and there was a lot of people, you call them and you say, I want to talk to you about your maze. Well, they don't want to talk to you about it because it's business. It's money. Nobody wants to talk about that. But I found a maze up in Rochester, New York. You can look it up. And I got to the business manager, and I was talking to her about how do you do business-wise with your maze. It's a 5-acre maze. They've had it up for 5 or 6 years, so they have things other than the maze, but the main draw is the maze. This is up north, right? So they have a very narrow window for when the corn grows and before the winter comes. And so I said, how much do you charge to go to your maze? $10.25. I said, $10.25 for everybody? For everybody. So I asked her, how many people on a good day come to your maze? She said, on a good day in October, sunny day in October, weekend, we have 2,000 people a day. Okay, so I'm paused on the phone. And she knows what I'm doing. I'm doing the math. And she said, that's right, on a good weekend in October, with our maze, we bring in over $40,000. Wow. So the biggest budget that we had ever had to deal with at the Meadow was $1,500 for a year. So, I'm thinking 40 grand, one weekend. So obviously this lady has had a great idea, a maze, So we start that process and we get it approved to put it in a maze. And then it comes to the Meadow Committee. Well, the Meadow Committee, a bunch of greenies. They don't want corn. What could you possibly? Corn is commercial product, so on and so forth. We need something that a native grass, right? So, what kind of grass would work? Well, again, sometimes you just can't have the idea. It's better that the idea come from someplace else. I've been going to Iowa since 1987, Nebraska, Kansas, and what do the landowners up there do to protect the edges of creeks and the edges of roads? They plant switchgrass. Switchgrass, very good root system, grows up tall. So, heaven be, forgive that I would suggest that, but it came up at our Meadow Committee that we could have switchgrass. And one of the reasons that I like switchgrass for the maze, let me see if I can get this. Will it go? Oh no, it went dead again. Oh no, I'm hitting the wrong button. Oh, there we go. How tall is switchgrass? This is a photograph of my wife. She's 5'10". This is a stand of switchgrass down near Stephenville. Texas A&M has a little school, Tarleton State, have a farm out there. And so we found this. And so you can imagine this is the maze, right? I know it would work. In fact, it would be, my concern is if we had a maze, would be kind of a Lord of the Flies situation. We sent 20 kids in there. How many came out? count before we go. So anyway, so we got going, and I'm going to step through here. In the late fall of 12, we had a guy come in there and mow for hay, because we needed it mowed. So he took mowed it, and he took the hay. And so this is what it looked like, pretty much right down to the nub. This is January, look there, January 13th, so we know when it is. And then this is March. Okay, and so what you see is what I call winter grass. It's winter rye. And so we've got to deal with that because it has a very rapid life cycle. It comes up, and then by May, it's pretty well done. And I don't know why it's not a food source, because it just produces tons and tons of seeds, and then they fall on the ground, and it's done by Mother's Day normally. So we're going to have to deal with this. And so we get a farmer with some equipment to come in, and I just have to bookmark. You have a event coming up here, and is it in August? Is it called Roundup? Right? I want you to think about that, okay? Roundup, because what is in this container, because we're going to try to get rid of this grass, is not vinegar, okay? It's not vinegar, okay? So I think I skipped one there. Maybe not. Anyway, so we had the first spraying, and you can see this is the edge, so the winter grass is still growing, right? But not over here. But what's this stuff? This is our buddy. This is Johnson grass. So it's coming. So, and over on the southern edge of the meadow is a bunch of fescue. The reason a bunch of fescue is because the farmer, before Francis Williams owned the place, sprigged in a bunch of fescue. And so we have fescue. And I really can't tell with the light here, but our first spraying, the fescue said, "Is that all you got?" So we said, no, we have some more. So we came back for another go at it. And so just showing you this, putting down the vinegar to get rid of the Johnson grass. And we did that in March, did it in April, did it in May, we did it in September, and we did it in October. We were serious about getting rid of this stuff. What we did not do, and this was a mistake that we made, was this was not a farm, an active farm that got tilled and plowed and such. It had simply been dormant for many, many years. And so all we're doing is rolling this tractor over and spraying. We are not doing what is called disturbing the soil. Okay, very, very important. If you do go forward, disturbing the soil. So we didn't do that. But look, when we killed the poor Johnson grass, we got after it hard. And so this, I'm just showing you that. It's pretty much looked like the moon. And this is a photograph, late October. You can see the leaves haven't quite changed. And I took two photographs. I took a photograph of what I wanted to take a picture of, and then I took a photograph of these people that wanted to go to the maze. They were just a little bit early. But what I want to show you is right here, we had killed everything except in pockets there was still some Bermuda. This is October, late October. There's still Bermuda, and again, we had been after it hard, but still some Bermuda. And we made a choice. Too bad. We think we can deal with the Bermuda. We're going to go ahead. So late October. So this is an aerial view again of kind of what it looked like. The existing stuff that would come up, we had pretty well taken care of, and we were feeling pretty good about it. So we got a hold of USDA up in Bonham. They had a no-till drill. We got the no-till drill to come down to help us plant the seeds. It was a very interesting day for me because the guy pulls up, and I said, "Where's the tractor?" And he said, "Oh, no, you have to get your own tractor." Oh, okay. So we had a little challenge there. So have you ever seen a no-till drill? Any of you? So pretty interesting the way it works. It's got the stuff digs into the ground here, and then these wheels come by and push the soil back over, and so you just drag it through. It's got 2 seed bins in it, one up here for hard seeds like switchgrass, and then one behind that for fluffy seeds like blue stem and Indian grass. So we got the drill in. We ordered the seed. I'm not going to name the name of the company we ordered the seed from. We ordered some little blue stem, big blue stem, and Indian grass, and that stuff's expensive. So anyway, we had a lot of money tied up in that, about almost $2,000 in seeds. And in the area, I need to go back. In this area right here, this corner, about 4 acres, that's where we were going to plant the maize. And the rest of the area we were going to plant, the suggested rate of seed was 4 pounds per acre. But in this area where the maize was going to go, 8 pounds. We're serious about it. Okay, let me give you a number here. We're going to come back to this number. There are 500,000 switchgrass seeds in 1 pound. Okay? So 8 pounds of switchgrass is a ton of seeds per acre. Okay, you can do the math. You know, it's more than 100. Okay, so it's more than 500. Remember that number, 500. So anyway, so here's the drill. Okay, here's the guy planting. Okay, boy, oh boy, do I wish I had this day back, because I could have taken advantage of modern technology. I could have taken a photograph. I did take a photograph. Here it is, of the guy planting. And what I should have done that day is send that photograph, text that photograph to the seed company and say, "This look good?" Because if you don't know anything about planting seeds, planting wheat, whatever, if you're going to plant wheat and plant corn, that's probably okay. But planting natural grass, not so much. Does anybody know what's wrong with that? It's too deep. It's too deep. Okay? So, anyway, we didn't know that, you know. And let me tell you why we didn't know that. I trusted the drill. The drill has little things on it, little adjustments. And you know what? They dumbed it down. Switchgrass, you can dial it for switchgrass. Blue stem, you can dial it for blue stem. You can dial pounds per acre. So, you know, I go, hey, that's what it says. That's what we're going to do. So that's what we did. And we planted in early December, and then we had a miracle. We had a snow. Nothing better for planting grass than to have snow or a light rain fall on the newly planted grass. It sets it in the soil, right? So we had this light snow. We're in heaven. This is going to work. And so what happened was, this is a photograph of early April. And you can see these big bare areas, but you can't see any grass coming up. So I'm on the phone. All right? Just spent a ton of money, half our budget on seed to the seed company. Where's our seed? 62 degrees. The ground has to be 62 degrees for the seed to germinate to come up. Okay, 62 degrees. My concern was not 62 degrees. My concern was 106. And why do I say 106? Sometimes in June in Texas at the meadow, it gets to be 106 degrees. And my concern was the grass would not be tall enough to survive 106 degrees. And so we talked, the seed company and I talked quite a bit about this. Oh, no, it's going to be okay. Normal rainfall, be up in late April, early May, and it'll be where it can, some of it can survive the summer. You know, I mean, it's not going to survive 2011. We understand that, but a normal summer, so we're okay. So this is April. This is late April. What's this person doing? That person that hung around me too much of a smart you-know-what. And I took that photograph to show the seed company, look, we're looking for that grass. And we don't see a lot of it, okay? So we're looking for it. This is late April. This is early May. Anybody know what this stuff is? I'll give you a clue. It's ragweed. It's even worse. Texas giant ragweed. So, this is coming up. Still, no grass. But, let me assure you, we have exceeded 62 degrees ground temperature at this point. So, what's happening here? So, what we have here? Remember how the plow looked when it went through there, kind of in a line? So we got this coming up, but Van and I discovered we both grew up in Amarillo. Some people that grew up in Amarillo had to spend time wheat farming. I would be one of those. And so I knew, as soon as I saw that, I knew what that was. That was winter wheat. That was winter wheat that got caught in that no-till drill that came out. Okay. So I was encouraged, though. It was all in a straight line like it was supposed to be, which told me that someplace, somewhere in 12 acres, there was going to be a line like that of switchgrass. I'm back to the maze, right? I'm looking for switchgrass. I'm hoping the other stuff comes up because it was so expensive, but I'm looking for switchgrass. Okay, here's my truck. Here's the same. This is middle of May. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you another photograph, and I'm going to emphasize that people are missing an opportunity with ragweed not to explore it as a fuel source. Okay? This next photograph is 2 weeks later. That's my truck. Okay? You cannot see my truck because the ragweed in my truck, you know how that's a Ford Ranger, so that's how tall the ragweed is. See? Luckily today, in the back of the room, Clyde Camp, president of our chapter, and Clyde, in case you don't believe me, you can ask Clyde. I haven't paid him any money. He will assure you, because he was there, that the ragweed by late May was about 6 feet tall, thick. So I'm on the phone. We've got a lot of money here. So we talk, and they say, well, the only way you're going to get that to come up, because it's being shaded now, no kidding, it's being shaded, is cut it down. So we cut it down. Okay, so we cut it down, and you can see, actually you can't see, there's no grass. There's no native grass. None that we planted came up. So now I'm really on the phone, okay? Because I had a little ugly fairy come to my camera, and we had this repeated itself. June, July, September, we cut the ragweed down for all through the summer. And what I tell folks is, if you have a tractor and it cuts a 5-foot swath, if you're in your front lawn, that's big. It doesn't take you any time at all to cut your front lawn with a 5-foot cutting deck. But if you're in the middle of 12 acres, that's a long day. Long day. So we had some long days cutting that. And so obviously I'm on the phone with the vendor saying, what's going on here? We have all kinds of this and that, whatever. And sometimes I have to tell you, the conversation was contentious. Okay? Contentious. So there's email traffic going on as well. And you know what happens sometimes with email? You have send all or reply all. So they are replying all to one of my emails within the company, and they don't know that I'm still on the list. I'm still on the list. So I see their dialogue back and forth, what's going on, how come the grass isn't going, they have all these kinds of excuses, whatever. They never thought to ask me to send a photograph, and I never thought to send them a photograph. I should have done that. Anyway, so it's going back and forth. And finally, I see an email, photograph of Mione. That's the title. And I go, photograph of Mione? And so I opened it up, and there's some dialogue, I've been talking to him, back and forth, and this guy just won't leave us alone. And I took a picture of him over at the county fair. I'm just kidding, they didn't do that. Anyway, I lost my photographs through the summer, and picked back up, and this is obviously, we had a hard freeze in November. We don't normally, and so we were taking photographs of by this time the Johnson grass has come back, and the ragweed has come back, but we have in the far southern reaches some switchgrass coming up. So, that's good that we do that. This is the exact same place that the truck photo is. And so you see those little white things? You can see it better on the monitor than you can on the screen. But one of our volunteers took an old T-shirt and went through and tied off little white flags on all of our switchgrass that had come up. Of course, we got into a real discussion. How many do we have? 500,000 a pound, 4 pounds per acre. That's 2 million seeds. And you're tying off ties, and you've tied off. And the number, I'm stretching it. The number might have been 500. It might have been 500. So not a big success. And in the winter, we skimmed off the top of the Johnson grass so that we could see where our switchgrass was. This is one of our volunteers, Laura. This is my shovel right here, and right beside it is some switchgrass. And you can see how tall it is. Grew up. And that would have had to have grown up from, this area was mowed right down at the ground in September. So it grew that tall in between September and when we had the hard freeze in November. So that one of the reasons to go back to why do we have switchgrass? Because it grows fast and it grows tall. Back to the Lord of the Flies type thing, back to the maze. So we have less than 500 of these plants, and so what are we going to do? Well, we're going to save them. And so I didn't give you the number, but we spent about $5,000 on the total effort, mowing, seed, sowing, such. So we have 500 plants, so do the math. They're pretty valuable. So we go out and we gather them up and we dig them and we plant them in a not a 10-acre plot, about a very, very small plot, just to save them. And I had some company wanted to do some volunteer work, and so we were reseeding, and that's what they did earlier in the year, thinking that maybe we'll get some of these seeds to come up. Do you think I bought the seed from the same company? Yeah, sure. Okay, and then it snowed. So we seeded and it snowed, so we thought we were in good shape. And we're kind of back to where we were. So Van told me if you don't stop talking about 11:25, these people are going to bolt for lunch. And so I've been watching my clock. We're at 11:25. So just to review, if you do this, if you do something like this, I think the key thing was to disturb the soil. Everybody we talked to made the assumption that the ground was being worked, that it was active. It wasn't active. And so that was a hard lesson, that we didn't disturb the soil. What we should have done is put a little plow behind the sprayer. As the sprayer went through and disturbed the soil, and then the next time when it came up, then we would get it. And if we had done that, then we wouldn't have had the trouble with the ragweed. The other thing is, I don't know, don't trust the label, because we follow the label on the no-till drill. So here we are. It's about to be growing season, right? I mean, spring comes in the next 2 weeks, basically, and the ground temperature will get to 62 degrees in the meadow in about 6 weeks. And so there's a big discussion in our group. Will the seed come up? Will the seed not come up? So what do you think? Think it'll come up? Some will come up, right? Some won't. But One thing about switchgrass, just one thing I want to mention. Switchgrass is not only a native grass, switchgrass is a commercial grass. I mentioned to you, my exposure to it was with farmers in the Midwest. And let me ask you this. If a farmer's put down 8 pounds per acre and none of it came up because he's using this for erosion protection, do you think that farmer's going to wait another whole year before he plants again? The answer to that is no. And so you get caught up in a paradigm of, well, this is native grass, and native grass takes forever to grow, and so on and so forth, when in actuality, this particular type of natural grass, switchgrass, is both. It's native, but it's commercial. And a commercial person with a mindset would not tolerate that. They would replant. And they would replant, you know, probably they'd find out what they did wrong, and they would do it. Well, we're going to wait. And again, back to these contentious conversations, I have a $500 bet, which they would not accept, that virtually none of the switchgrass will come up. And of course, now we've had all this rain, tons and tons of rain. We had 8 inches of rain by early March, and last year we didn't have 8 inches of rain until mid-June. So I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping we have tons and tons of switchgrass, tons and tons of Indian grass come up. I don't think so. And I'll send Van an update, and we're going to know 1 July. We're going to make a choice about that. And anybody any questions? I had a. Yes, ma'am.
Well, the switchgrass that you did buy, was it for this area and not supposed to be planted in Nebraska or something? Was it like?
Yeah, from Texas.
Specific?
From Texas.
Okay.
From Texas.
What part of Texas? I mean,
Well, see, if I told you where it was, where I bought it from, it might divulge where the vendor was. Muleshoe, Texas. The vendor that is located near Muleshoe. Yes, ma'am.
It might not have been the seed, it may have been planted it too deep.
It may have been that I planted too deep. What I didn't tell you, can I have a few more minutes beyond 11:30? Okay. What I didn't tell you, and what I wish I had taken photographs of, is a little background. We have an area as big as these 2 tables, maybe these 3 tables, that we call the front plot, that we first started growing native grass in. Okay? The only way we were ever able to successfully grow native grass is in these little manure pots. We'd put the seed in it, and we would grow the seed, and then we would put the whole pot in the ground, right? And so that's what we did in the front plot. And we had all different varieties of grass. So when I got all that grass seed in, I did the same thing. I got some pots, and I planted the grass in the pots. And not only that, I gave a bunch of pots away and a bunch of seeds away. Grow me some grass in these pots because I was going to put it in the front plot, right? What I didn't do was take pictures. If I had been taking pictures, I would have been taking pictures of pots because none of the grass came up. None of the grass came up. Did I say contentious discussions? Okay. So do I think we planted too deep? I think we planted too deep. Do I think there was something wrong with the seed? Yeah, I do. Does the company think there was something wrong with the seed? No, they don't. Yes, sir.
Bob, you ought to call Russell Stevens at the Noble Foundation in Ardmore. He did a lot of research on switchgrass.
Right. I've heard that name, and we should talk to him. So we will. We will. Especially, you know, this is a big deal, and so come 1 July, obviously before 1 July, really about 15 June, we're going to know. And, you know, because it's not like on the 30th of June, all of a sudden, you know, we're going to have a bunch of grass all of a sudden pop up. Yes, sir.
What's your plan for the rest of the property outside the main?
I'm sorry, you just have to say it again.
What's your plans for the rest of the property?
Oh, good. Rest of the property. You know, we have minimal is the short answer. We have scouts, and we have some groups that come in, and we work in very small areas that we can manage, and we are having some success in very small areas raising native grass. And we hope to expand those out kind of bit by bit, like you'd plant plugs, except these are big plugs with a variety of native grass in them. Any other questions? I know you're close to lunch. Yes, sir.
Bob,
question is if I've thought about tilling a portion of the soil, is that right? And then proceeding. You're asking the wrong guy. Yeah, I've thought about it, but are we going to do that? So far, no. So we're just going to see. So at this point. I missed one over here. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Pollyanna. So when you finally get your maize, does this mean the price went up on the internet?
I thought that's a good question. I ran some numbers. I used to do number crunching, and if we charged even $5 a person to get in, I mean, we would have more money than we knew what to do with. I mean, you have to kind of. Reality is what you are, what you were when type thing. My reality is our first budget was $120, and the next year $1,500. So if we had the maize, I don't think that we would charge anymore. I think we would just let people come in and go through it and such. But I do want to have two things. I want to go back to what we talked about. Your event in August. Tell me your name again. Roundup. Right. So we have all this 6 foot tall ragweed, and Clyde comes up with the idea, why don't we cut a maize and the ragweed? Yeah, right. So I never would have thought of it. But, so I know Clyde's raising his hands. Sit down, you're going too long. They gave me 5 more minutes. So, yeah, we missed her. It's native, right? We should have been native. What a great. Some of the native plant maize at the Connemara Meadow, right? So, we charge them $10 to get in there. Anyway, I have just two more anecdotes here. Clyde's here, I just can't refuse. So we get the maize, and it's going to be a time for our open house. And so Clyde puts on some email blast that goes out to everybody in the world. A little bit about it, and he puts in there this chemical that we had used to get rid of the Johnson grass. What's the name of your event? Oh yeah, so he put that in there, and so people are reading it. Man, here they come, flaming arrows. Oh, you're going to have kids go on this ground that has Roundup on it, and they're going to catch cancer and die before they get halfway through the maze. And I'm going, come on, give me a break. So anyway, that's kind of where we are. But anyway, Van said you might come over for a trip. Obviously, I'd love to see you come over there. And July 1st, you can help me count the seeds. Come anytime. Really the great time to come is between now and Mother's Day. It just so happens, there's a paid political announcement, a Boy Scout that did his Eagle Project for us, a great musician evidently, got a free ride to SMU. And so I've been badgering him to come back. And so on the 19th, about a month from now, 19th of April, his quintet, Woodwind Quintet, is going to be at our open house. So they're going to play about an hour gig for us. Music in the meadow type thing. So that's going. So you're going to come on the 19th. That you could see the grass ready to burst forth and listen to the music. Okay. So I wanted to tell you about this guy that was he had just come out of school, and then he had gone to the training program for a government agency or whatever. But he was an inspector, and so he goes up to this farmer. And he says, I've come to inspect your property and all that you're doing to make sure you're in compliance with our regulations. And the farmer says, well, okay, you're welcome to do that, but don't go into that pasture. And the guy says, hey, you see this badge? This badge means I can go anywhere I want to and look at anything I want to and do anything I want to. You know the story? So the farmer says, okay, but don't go into that pasture. And the guy said, you see this badge? So he goes and he gets into the pasture. And Pretty soon, the farmer hears a bunch of commotion. Here's this guy yelling, hollering, whatever. And he goes over and looks, and here's the guy running as fast as he can toward the fence, because right behind him is a big old bull about to get him. And so what does the farmer do? He says, "Show him your badge." So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob.
You bet.
It was great. We want to give you a little something. This is one of our little special T-shirts.
Super.
Don't cut it up and mark the
All right.
plants, okay?
Okay. All right. Come see us.